When I first heard the topic today, where we're going to talk about green lights, I take that very literally because I'm a pretty simple guy. Like, I'm at a green light at a traffic stop, and I've got the road opening up ahead of me. And like you, when we presented with opportunities, we've got several in front of us. But there's also this sense of urgency that comes, right? Like there's somebody behind us. If we don't get moving, they're going to start beeping their horn. We got to get moving in our lives. So I just wanted to share just a couple of ideas today that help us kind of make the best use of that green light opportunity. So we've got three choices really ahead of us. One is we've got this event happen, this situation that maybe we're unpleasant, it's unpleasant or painful, or just someplace we just don't want to be. For me, a mouse runs in front of me, I'm out of there. I don't really give it a lot of thought. I don't really think about where I'm headed. I just make a decision and escape. But another thing that happens sometimes is we want to make a decision to improve our lives. We want to make a fresh start, make a decision with this green light opportunity. And what we find out later is we really didn't change much at all. We may have changed our geography, a job, a relationship, but we find out that we've really just recreated the same situation that we were in before. But really then the last opportunity here, what I want to mention is that we have the chance to really pursue something much better, right? And that's where it is better, it feels better, and it just looks better. It's a decision that really helps us thrive in our life. And that's what we all want to do. The question is, when we make these changes at these green light opportunities, how do we make sure that that's the choice we make? Because often we think we're making those decisions, but we end up making the other two. So what can we do? That's really all my talk today is about, maybe just a couple of ideas on help us do that. What I'm sharing with you here is a picture of a house. This is the house I grew up in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, just up the road. When I was born, my mother fell into a coma, and it wasn't until 2 months later that we met each other. She woke up after the coma, and she had lost 2 years of her memory. So she had never really remembered having me or the pregnancy or anything like that. And so when I was introduced to her, she didn't buy it. Like, who is this kid? And it was a decision, it was a distance between us that we really never got over. I don't know really how to explain that other than to just share about it. But that was the least of her trouble, because while she was in the coma, she had developed this condition called encephalitis. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But it's an issue, it was a condition that attacked her brain and nervous system. And she never got better. But what happened was she developed seizures and convulsions, and this was 1961. At the time, the medical community really didn't know what they were dealing with, and they were loading her up on all kinds of different medications, and that led to mood swings and just real darkness for her. So I just shared a picture of the house, because this is the house that me and my brothers grew up in with this family, and they were great people, my parents, but there was darkness there that it was just very hard to live with. Over the years, my brothers and I, we realized that the roles had changed. It was through nobody's fault, but the roles had changed. We were to take care of Mom, it wasn't the other way around. We were to keep our nonsense away from her, keep the stress down, make her okay. Of course, that's impossible to do, right? Because she's never going to get better, but that was what we tried to do. All I knew was that by the time I hit high school, I couldn't wait to get out of that house, all right? And so I'm sitting in the living room on the floor, because back then we had to change the channel for our parents. There was no remote, so the kids acted as the remote. But I was sitting on the living room floor, and my dad said to me, so Bruce, where are you going to go to college? And I said, well, I'm going to go to Akron U, just like you did. And he goes, well, you don't have to go there. And I go, really? He goes, well, yeah, you can go anywhere you want. I suppose we ought to start thinking about this. I was a senior at the time. And I go, well, I could go to like Ohio State or something? He goes, well, yeah, you could do that if that's what you wanted. And so that's where I ended up, giving it about that much thought. So I don't know how, you can make out some of that. But that's me at 19, sitting at Mirror Lake, if you've ever been down to the Columbus campus, a very famous place down there on the Columbus campus. But that was an escape. It was like, give me the first ticket out of town. right? I'm just out of here. I really don't care where I am as long as I'm not in that home anymore. It wasn't the worst decision I ever made, but I just want to have us think about decisions that we're making during golden opportunities in our lives, and are we making them as steps forward or escapes? Because as we make them as steps forward, we're much more likely to find happiness and our impact in the world than just escaping. One of the things that did happen while I was on campus was, because of the way I grew up, I had a tendency not to really share anything or talk, be very expressive with much. I was very introverted. And one of the things I wanted to do, I knew for sure in my life, was to stand up in front of folks and talk and to share my story. But I had never done anything like that before. So there was an opportunity for me to teach fellow undergrads some math that they should have learned in high school, but they needed it now in college to graduate. And so I took that opportunity, and on my way to class the first day, I lost my breakfast on the way, on campus on the way to do this. I got started talking and teaching, and I got through it. And then I did the next day too, and I lost my breakfast. I never did figure out don't eat breakfast. All right. But eventually, as the quarter wore on, I was able to overcome that physical challenge, and I got to the point where I could actually conduct classes without falling apart physically. But that was an opportunity where I actually pursued a better situation because I made a decision to just open up my horizons. There's a book called Necessary Endings by Dr. Hendrick that I highly recommend. Dr. Cloud talks about how one of the ways we as people, as humans, one of the things we all have in common is we have a hard time ending things. We like to hang on to things, people, habits, belief systems, jobs, geographies, whatever that happens to be, friends who no longer serve our best interest. But we don't want to let them go for some reason. And he suggests that lack of letting go, that lack of ending things in our lives, really holds us back from taking up opportunities to expand and grow and take advantage of all the things that life may present us. Because we think we have to carry all this stuff with us, and it's just not true. And he gives this environment, he gives this example of a rose bush, and how the smart rose bush pruner is pretty selective, right? He gets rid of all the dead branches, and he even gets rid of some of the sickly buds, right? So that the few buds that he leaves on the plant are going to get the most moisture, the most sunlight, the most nutrients from the soil, so that they're going to grow and make the plant thrive. And he of course makes that reference so that we can think about that. What are we doing carrying all these other things that need to be ended in our lives if we really expect to fill our lives with the best blossoms? So back to our friend. Just to mention here. So the first of the two simple ideas here is to end our current situation. See, if we end the situation that we're in before we go forward, we don't need to escape it. I know that sounds really simple, and I know I don't have a prescription for all of the situations that we're all facing today. But if we think about, okay, I need to end this before I move forward, and sometimes it's ended for us, but we still have to make a decision that this is over before I start my next chapter. So if I make an ending, what's happened is, very subtly, I've moved my chances from 1 in 3 of picking the right path to down to 1 in 2, and that's pretty good. That's a big move forward. Now what I want to do is I want to eliminate the chances, the best chance I can, of not recreating my situation. And if you'll notice on the chart behind me, I show a little bit of relationship between those two boxes, between recreating and escaping, because what happens in our lives many times, and I think you may know people or you may be stuck in this yourself, once we recreate a situation, we have a tendency to do it over and over and over again. We escape it only to find out we've just recreated it again, etc. And so what we want to do, we really want to think about how to escape out of that pattern. So let's return to our young man. My wife at the time, it's my first wife, she was a lot prettier than that picture may indicate, but out of a sense of privacy, we blurred her face. But this was a couple years after graduation of college, my natural next step, because I was a follow the book type of guy, was to get married. Now, I married a young lady who had a very significant drinking problem. I knew this going in college. She was my college sweetheart. We had, and it wasn't like I didn't drink at all, but I knew that this was a problem. Her parents were alcoholics, and her brothers and sisters were alcoholics, and she had an alcohol problem. But you know what? There was something good about this relationship. I felt needed. I knew how she could count on me. I was always a cool head in the storm. I felt like there was a real value there, and it just felt right. About a year into the marriage, I realized what I had done, and you guys have already figured it out, right? I had recreated my childhood. I was now taking care of a person, trying to make her feel better, and looking out for her best interest and putting my own aside. Okay? Does that make sense? So I recreated it because I didn't, while the childhood had ended, I hadn't really changed much at all. I didn't understand. So something else has to happen for us not to recreate. So the marriage ended. After 4 more years, we made it go, and then it finally ended. And so I thought to myself, I want to be a husband. I want to be a father. What's going to be different the next time? And so what I want to do is I wanted to reject, this is part 2, reject the parts of that relationship, the bad relationships that I had in the past, and not carry them forward into my next chapter of life. Not blame other people, not blame mom, not blame dad, not blame my first wife, but look inside and say, okay, what is it that I was doing that have no business in the future in front of me, that I'm not going to carry into the future? Without blame, without grudges, without judgment, just what doesn't belong into the future? How am I going to have this rose bush that really has the best chance of success? And so I decided, okay, I'm not going to rescue anyone. I'm not going to take responsibility for them. I don't know how to do that, so I'm going to have to go get help, which I did. I'm going to find somebody who knows how to stand on their own 2 feet and know what it's like to be in a relationship where I don't have to take care of someone and relate to them as equals. And I'm not going to stop until I find that. And those were hard decisions, to look at myself in the mirror and realize that all the alcohol, I could blame all I wanted, but the fact of the matter was, whose life was it? It's mine, and I have to make the best decisions to maximize my opportunities. Thankfully, 23 years later, so far so good. So that's the second thing I want to leave you with. Reject. First thing is, end the situation so we don't have to escape. Once we've ended the situation, we want to reject those things that we are contributing to that situation that don't belong in the future. And once we do that, then our odds are so much more improved, because then we say, okay, I'm free of the past, I can make decisions, and I can go pursue that better opportunity. My last slide. On my own, recollections of an unlikely CEO. I went back. My mom died in 2003. We had reconciled after many years of pain, and I had the great opportunity to, after she passed away, I just felt like her story and our story together as a family needed to be told. And what ended up happening was this book, On My Own. Because had you met me as a child, I would be the last, most unlikely person to be standing here or running companies. But being able to have that distance and understand my role in it without blame is what's allowed me to have some kind of healing from all of that. And it's just been a wonderful, wonderful blossoming. And the final note is here on the right-hand side. Going full circle now, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, I have the opportunity to serve on the local board of Wayne and Holmes County of NAMI, where we go out into the communities and we provide services for families who are dealing with mental illness and all the related issues there. And we help do suicide prevention, and we help train officers in the community to de-escalate situations. And we help families who are living in those homes all quietly that nobody else knows to come out of the darkness and to find light. And this is my tribute to Mom, right? Because at the time we didn't know anything about this. We didn't know how to make it better. And these are what green light moments are all about. So I wish you the best on your green light moments ahead. Thank you very much.